This is Trophy Gold, Panning the Last River Part 1. I want to start by having all of us introduce ourselves. When I call on you, please say your name, your pronouns, and anything else you would like for us to know about you. I will start. My name is Jason. Sorry, can't talk. My name is Jason. I am the co-publisher of Trophy along with David, who's on the call, as well as the game's creator, Jesse Ross. And I'm also the creator of another series of games based off of Brindlewood Bay, including Brindlewood Bay, if anybody's familiar with that. Let's go to David.
My name is David. I am he, him pronouns, and I'm the other publisher with Gauntlet Publishing, along with Jesse, who brings Trophy to the table. And we here at the Gauntlet, besides Trophy, do Brindlewood Bay, The Between, and soon a smaller project, but that is growing bigger, a game called El Paso that I've gotten to work on quite a bit based on The Between.
And another game we can't talk about, but that is relevant because Gabriel's here. Gabriel.
I'm Gabriel. I'm using he or they pronouns. I'm a contributor to the Trophy books, and I've been working on a few other Trophy adjacent projects, as well as some of the games already mentioned. So excited to be here. I'm not really familiar with this incursion, so it should be fun.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. Chaotic.
Hi, I'm Chaotic. I use he, they pronouns. Yeah, I just run a lot of The Between. Like, I also recently got co-published with Ben for Borders of Hargrave House. Mostly I just did editing work on that. Also, yeah, I write in like mysteries from time to time. Haven't published them yet, but I will get there eventually.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. Excuse me. And Jack.
Jack, my name. Any pronouns are fine. And I'm excited because I've never played Gold. I've played Dark before, love it, obviously. And so I'm excited to see the more, I guess heroic would be the wrong word to use, but I guess more survivable version of Trophy is exciting to me.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to start with CATS. CATS is an acronym that stands for Concept, Aim, Tone, and Subject Matter. I like to do this to establish some basic expectations about what's going to be happening this week and over the course of the next few weeks as we do this incursion. I also want to say that for people watching the video, this series is technically a sequel to the Hester's Mill series that's in the YouTube playlist because Chaotic has a character in that one. So this is the next one for that character. I don't think it's probably super necessary to watch that one in order to enjoy this one, but just as a little note for anybody trying to navigate the playlist. Okay, back to CATS. So the concept of Trophy Gold. Trophy Gold is a game about treasure hunters, doomed treasure hunters, going into the lost and forgotten parts of the world in order to find treasures in order to fund a very expensive goal they have, which we call a drive in the game. As Jack mentioned, it is related to another game called Trophy Dark. Its rules are in part derived from Trophy Dark. The difference is, whereas in Trophy Dark, the characters are doomed treasure hunters. These are desperate treasure hunters. I think I said doomed earlier, but desperate's what I meant. These are desperate treasure hunters. And the game embraces a sort of play ethos that we call, in turns, play to win and play to lose. So play to win, meaning you're trying to keep your character alive. This game is very gamey in that way, and it's even strategic at certain points. You're trying to keep your character alive. You're trying to keep the group alive. You're trying to meet your burdens and, trying to like get gold and treasure. But it may turn out to be the case that at some point the character is going to be lost because their ruin gets too high. And at that point, you should embrace the play to lose part of it, which is you lean into your character's descent or death in order to give us the best possible story. And by way of comparison, Trophy Dark, the sort of parent game of Trophy Gold, it just has play to lose. It does not have play to win. This particular incursion is written by Eli Kurtz. It's a really interesting incursion because it puts the desperate in desperate treasure hunters. This one does. This is a gritty, grimy rough sort of incursion. It's all about like, you're not the only desperate people. It's about a lot of desperate people. It's about theft. It's about people screwing each other over. It's about not trusting your fellow man. I mean, it's really, really cynical and like pessimistic outview in this one. But it eventually starts to break away into be more of like a traditional kind of fantasy thing. But it initially kind of starts very like kind of almost like the TV show Deadwood. It's like a bunch of people who are just there trying to like exploit like the potential for like, you know, gold that they're panning for in the river, right? So that's kind of the vibe. The aim. So today we are going to make characters and then we're going to introduce them. And then after we introduce them, we'll start playing. I suspect we'll be able to finish the entire incursion over the amount of time we have. I've given us a lot of time. So I don't think we'll have any trouble as far as that goes. So I think what I really want to focus on, especially in this first session, is I really want to kind of like luxuriate, so to speak, in the sort of initial setup of the game, which is this like panhandling camp. And so it may not have the feel of like a traditional dungeon crawl. We're going to kind of like lean into more of a kind of like personal drama, kind of like storyline initially, right? Just kind of see how that plays out. But in terms of aims, like I want to like kind of learn more about the characters today. That's sort of a player aim. For those of you who have not played Trophy Gold before, I want to teach you the rules. That's the thing we're going to do today. And as always, just like focus on telling a good story with that play to win and play to lose ethos. We'll have a debrief at the end as well. The tone of the game is desperate, can be a little dark, and humor is okay, but always try to bring it back to that sort of dark, desperate place whenever you can. And then subject matter. The incursions helpfully have all of the bright line subject matter written down for you, so I'll just say what they are now. Alcohol, amputation, body horror, drowning, graphic violence, and snakes. Those are things that could happen in the game. We will have safety tools on the table. The first is the X card. You can just say X card or type it in the chat. If something happens that makes you uncomfortable in an unfun way, we'll stop play and we'll figure out what it is and we'll change it and do something different. We'll have the open door policy. The open door policy means you can just leave if you want to. There's nothing, you don't have to explain yourself. You can just go. And then lines and veils. Lines are things that we are not going to have in the game in terms of subject matter, and veils are things that we are okay with being in the game, but we prefer not to role play them. I will, as an example, say that my line is sexual violence. We're not going to have that in the game. And a veil is going to be torture. I'm okay with torture being something that happens in the story. I just prefer not to role play that. If you will all just take a minute when you're creating your characters to go through the safety tab and put your own lines and veils, that'll be very helpful for me. And with all that said, are there any questions about cats? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording. Okay, we have made characters, and now we are going to introduce them. By way of introductions, we just need the basics for now. Their name, their occupation, their background, their drive is really important. And then if you want to talk about their rituals, you can talk about their rituals as well. I'll leave that up to you. If you know anything else about them, like maybe what is the meaning of their drive, or what, maybe a little bit more about their backstory, you can certainly tell us that now, and that's great. But it's okay if you don't know, because we're going to discover it as we play. That's one of our principal things to do, is discover the characters as we play. So I'm going to start with a returning character. That is Obeha. So Chaotic, please tell us about Obeha.
Obeha is, they use they them pronouns. They are a sorcerer, an unmasked Fadeborn. And they are trying to find the resting ground of the Morning Night. From the last incursion they were on, they did pick up a third ritual called Scarecrow, and that is a very fun one. They have a cloak with rings of metal bound into it, and an ever-growing staff, which means that the staff is like a stick But however, like at the top, there, no matter how many times you look at it, there seems to be new growth coming from it. Like the plant is still alive. And they wear a mask all the time now. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
I know also that you managed to have one horde from your last incursion, and
Last incursion was me trying not to die.
you should have a T-shirt
we
that says
came
"I
clo-
survived Hester's Mill and I got 1 gold for my horde." I love it. It's great. Thank you so much. Let's go over to Jack and Soren.
Yeah, Soren, pronouns are he, him. He is a leech, formerly an escaped cultist, or I guess currently an escaped cultist, formerly a cultist. His strive is to win the heart of the heir apparent of Nakana. A little bit more clarification on that. He wants the literal heart. Why? You'll figure that out. But he has 2 rituals right now: numb, which reduces the sensation within the body, and silence, which deafens all nearby for a few minutes. And he's just happy to be here.
I bet you he won't be shortly after we start. Okay, let's go to Gabriel and Cassian.
So Cassian is a smuggler and a runaway Kingsguard. His drive is to retrieve the lost banner of the Nameless Legion. And all I know is that I think he believes it has occult significance or power associated with it. He has 2 rituals. Let's go down to hasten, so we can time in a small area moves at twice normal speed, and burrow, move through the ground. So definitely things that are useful in being a sneaky smuggler.
Fantastic, thank you. And for folks who are doing their Trophy Gold bingo cards while they watch this, you can go ahead and mark off character named Cassian. That square is now sorted. Let's go over to David and Aram.
Ram is a nest, occupation. Once was an emboldened rat catcher. I think one led to the other.
So they feel the same.
One is getting rid of, the other is inviting in. There was an escalation at some point, and I think that has to do something with the drive, bring freedom to Tyrolus. Tyrolus is a place, but I think in this context, Tyrolus means something else to Aram, though everybody else may just assume that he means the place, but he does not. Yeah, he has a ritual, aura, which allows that's not right. Okay, the text of this is different, so I need to go change it, but it should be like it's a way to ascertain some information about creatures. I'll get that straightened out.
That's what aura does.
The one that I was selecting, that's what it did. I might have picked the wrong one from the list.
Okay, well, you get it sorted out, and it's fine for now.
Yeah.
Okay, great, fabulous, thank you. He sounds like a weird little rat dude. Okay, great, love all that. We'll learn more about these characters as we go. And in the beginning, I'm going to emphasize questions related to their appearance. So be thinking about what your character looks like, even if you don't have a picture of them yet. I want to talk about a couple of rules things before we start. So one thing to know is that this game has it has a bit of a sort of there's a bit of strategy to it. Okay, so the incursions are divided by what are called sets, and each set has a goal. And the set goal is frequently something that the characters aren't even aware of. Like it's something that we're aware of as players that we think would be interesting to do, or at least the creator of the incursion thinks would be interesting for us to do. But sometimes they are things that the characters are aware of. In any case, you can explore the environment and gather treasure and be actively trying to achieve the set goal or not. It doesn't really matter. Sometimes the set goals have to be achieved because they lead to the next set, but usually they're more like things that are kind of like vaguely optional, right? You can kind of decide as a group what you think is important as players, right? You're going to have this currency called the hunt roll token. And the hunt roll token is, it's a sort of currency that gives you power over the story, okay? So you'll be collecting these tokens, and you can spend one token to get a treasure. You can just say, I want to spend a token and find a treasure where I'm looking right here, right? And I'll give you one. I'll tell you what you find. And it'll be worth at least 1 gold. And that's a great way of spending your hunt roll tokens, or a great reason to, because your characters are trying to acquire enough treasure to equal in gold, equal to your burdens. Your burdens, that's the amount of gold you have to have in either cash or treasure before you can leave the incursion. Because if you leave the incursion before that, your character will retire and they're fated to destitution and pennilessness, and we no longer care about them, and they can no longer be played. So so make sure you hit your burdens. So spending tokens, getting treasure, that's a great thing to do. You can also just find treasure because you find treasure, because you're looking in the right place. Another thing you can do with your tokens is related to those set goals. So you can pool your tokens together and get 3 and spend 3 in order to automatically achieve the set goal. Now, why might you want to do that? Well, you might want to automatically achieve it rather than achieving it through gameplay, because your characters are very hurt and you need to get just a little bit further. And so you spend the tokens in order to achieve the set goals, to basically kind of short circuit the story a little bit so your characters can last longer and achieve more before they have to leave. It could also just be, you might just decide that it's more interesting for the story right now to go ahead and just do it. Like, it feels like the right moment. So I'm going to go ahead and let's spend the tokens to go ahead and do this because this feels like the right thing to do. You're going to discover as you play that you have a lot of control over the outcome of the story and what the story is. And that leads to my next point, which is Trophy Gold is a collaborative storytelling game. It has the appearance of an old school fantasy dungeon crawler, and it certainly has those aesthetics, and it even feels that way when you play, but it is very collaborative. I have an incursion, which is a skeleton of a story. It is your job to help put the meat on that skeleton. And the way you do that, there are different ways, but the main way you do that is with one of the die rolls that is called the risk roll. So whenever your characters are doing something risky, you do the risk roll. And part of the risk roll is a thing called the devil's bargain. And a devil's bargain is basically an offer you make to the player who's rolling dice. And if they accept it, if they accept the thing that you say is true, then they get a bonus on their die roll. Now, devil's bargains are things that complicate that character's lives, and they are things that are absolutely true if they get accepted. So whether you win or succeed or fail at the die roll, the devil's bargain happens if you accepted it, right? So an example is really good here, I think. Let's say, for example, let's say that Soren is trying to jump across a crevasse, okay? And Gabriel offers to Jack, no matter what, Soren is going to drop their jagged sawtooth blade down the crevasse. Now, how might that be? Well, if you win the die roll, or if you get a success on the die roll, it's because it slipped out of your pocket and falls down the crevasse. If you fail at the die roll, it's because you also fell down the crevasse, right? So no matter what, your jagged sawtooth blade is going down the crevasse. That's a pretty straightforward devil's bargain, and that's okay sometimes. A more interesting devil's bargain might be, which of course I would offer, it would be on the other side of the crevasse, there is a delegation from Nagane. Now, that's really interesting for Soren because Soren's drive is connected to Nagane, right? And so Jack might decide, oh, that's going to take the story in a really cool, interesting direction. Let's do that one, right? And so That is what devil's bargains are, and that's how they can kind of affect the story. The delegation from Nagane thing is fun because it's not something that we had thought about before. It's certainly not something the incursion considered, but now it's a part of the story, and we're going to lean into that and see what that means in the story. It's an opportunity for you to look at your fellow player's character sheet and say, what can I do right now that would be really cool for that character, right? And so in that sense, it's a very like collaborative sort of thing. It's a group storytelling effort, and it's a lot of fun. So start thinking about it in those terms. I am not here to solely deliver a story to you. You are here to deliver story to each other, okay? So that's those are a couple of the rules things I wanted to talk about. And I think with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce the incursion, and then we'll take a break. And we'll come back and do the first set. So let's introduce it first, though. Panning the Last River. The original plan was simple. Supervise and protect a panhandling crew on a remote branch of the Last River. Rumors spoke of gold-glinting shores and scarce monstrosities near the ruined village of Creve. The Last River carried your boat through Caldur for 3 days. But when you arrived, you discovered no ruined village. Instead, you found a ramshackle base camp bustling with other treasure hunters, already pursuing the lead you thought you sought alone. By the time you arrived, there were already too many competitors, but many of their scouts returned from the forest reporting unknown treasure sites of unfathomable worth. What quarry will you claw from the hands of your rivals, or will you be clawed by what waits in the wood? The theme of this incursion is theft, and it plays out in lots of different ways. Literal theft from other people, but also theft of identity, theft of ideals, that sort of thing. So we're going to go on break. Think about a couple of things while we're on break. What does your character look like? That's important right now. But also, I want to know a little bit more about your drive. Now is the time to start thinking about your drive and why pursuing this questionable opportunity could help you achieve it. Let's go ahead and take 5. I'll see you in 5. The first set is called the Panhandler Base Camp. And the set goal is to steal from the crews who have stolen your spot. Meaning this site altogether. You thought you were going to be here alone. Let me type that for you in here. A hastily assembled inn on the banks of the Last River, surrounded by dozens of tents, large and small, form the base camp for the various panhandling crews at work in the area. Hired guards keep watch over clusters of tents belonging to individual crews. Security in an atmosphere like this is challenging, to say the least. Just as the panhandlers are willing to take from the river and surrounding forest, so too are they willing to take from each other. Indeed, as you are stepping through the camp, which is very muddy and stinking, but cut with the smell of fresh river air and pine, you see 2 crews fighting over a shallow dish that contains the most pathetic amount of gold dust, but they are fighting over it, and they're cursing at each other. They are trying to invoke all sorts of seemingly arcane and ad hoc rules and protocols for who gets to claim what. Weapons are drawn, and some security people come to try to break it up. But the tension is thick and it's real in this camp. The center of the camp, of course, is this inn, which I mentioned before. It's called the Quick and Dirty. And that is where almost everybody in the camp is at when they're not like trying to panhandle the river. As you are walking through, you actually see a severed hand impaled upon a spear outside a particularly large and luxurious tent. It is dripping blood and watering a weed below it. A warning, perhaps, to not steal from that tent. I think at this point I want to just go through and ask each of you, as you're stepping into the base camp, this panhandler's camp, how do you look? But importantly, how do you look like you haven't been here for weeks trying to get meager treasure from the river? That's what I'm really interested in. How do you stand out in this environment? Think about it for a moment. Whoever wants to go first, speak.
I think for Soren, it's just a kind of a matter of cleanliness. He's rather tall, probably about 6'2", 6'3", but very lanky, very skinny, and bald. Seems to have some kind of elaborate scarification coming up from the back of his neck to the top of his skull. Very gaunt looking, but very clean overall. His leather gambeson doesn't look like it's endured a lot of wear and tear. It's not the finest made, but it's certainly not the uniform of someone who's been in the dirt and been on the banks of the river trying to scrounge for gold and treasure. But as a little flavor thing, literally, as we are sort of entering this camp, there will be a moment where Soren looks at the hand and makes sure that no one else is watching, and will take up with his fingers some of the blood from the stump, kind of lick it, and then keep walking.
Very nice. Thank you. Obeha?
I think that Obeha, they are, besides like just the general cleanliness of like their own clothes, I think something that they notice is that they are one of the few people that are masked. Like, even though like dirt covers people's faces and just like it gets everywhere, the mud, you just can't scrub it out. You can still see their features, what they look like, because, well, only thieves have something to hide, really.
Thank you. Aram?
Aram probably looks like he belongs here pretty well, except for two things. So he walks about with a long hammer. He uses like the hammerhead is kind of what he grabs onto and uses it kind of like a walking stick. But he's got kind of brown patchy clothing, in quotation marks. Occasionally you might see like a tail sticking off of a part that doesn't seem like, part of the rest of the pattern. That's the clothes. But the two things that really separate him from looking like everybody else here: one, he stands upright. He's not, his back isn't in kind of a perpetual bend as if he's been panning for an eternity. And two, he has a cage on his back just behind his head with some rats in it. and there are still rats in it. They have not been consumed for food. Those are the two things that distinguish him from other people around here. And as a bit of color, he sermonizes to the rats as he walks through this place. Oh, Tyrolus. And he takes the cage off and like looks at the couple that are in there, and you see his clothes actually grow a few ears at the same time. Woe to all man. This lot here, they do not know how to share. They are not a proper unified creature, and they will suffer worse for it. And he puts the cage back and continues on.
That's incredibly interesting because, of course, rats are incredibly social creatures, right? Like they take care of each other, they look out for each other. They're really, really like social, tight-knit creatures. And so that's intriguing to me, that idea that you are almost like offended by the craven selfishness of these people, right? I think that's intriguing. Yeah, interesting. Okay. Cassian?
Cassian has sort of messy long hair that's tied back a little bit to keep out of his face. He survived a lot by looking like he generally belongs somewhere. So the main thing that stands out is that his armor is not dirty. It is Kingsguard armor that the insignia has been somehow removed. Other Kingsguard would recognize that, but most locals might not. He kind of walks with not exactly a limp, but he's kind of concealing bruises under his armor, maybe from a fight or a fall. And he's used to blending in cities, so he's clearly not mud spattered or dirty yet.
This Kingsguard angle is interesting to me because in the setting of Trophy, I gather, at least it seems like the Kingsguard are like sort of, they're associated with the city, they're associated with Fort Durin, they are symbols of authority and order. And yet I imagine that this base camp is none of those things, right? And it's probably filled with some rather desperate, dastardly characters, right? And so I'm curious about the Kingsguard armor. Like if people recognize it, how would you expect them to react?
Pretty suspiciously, or maybe more with more confrontation. So I think he has it out of necessity. He's got sort of a cloak so he can kind of loosely conceal it, but I think it's one of those, you look like you belong, so you might kind of play that up a little bit and look like you're meant to be a guard or part of a militia or something, or you conceal it and just kind of step out of sight.
Yeah, it's intriguing.
He's trying to size up the conflict and kind of feel like he's used to that. Is this going to escalate? Where should I stand in this situation?
Good. Well, I'm going to turn it over to the four of you then. You're arriving at camp. Soren is being a blood weirdo, and Aram is being a rat weirdo, and Cassian's being duplicitous, and Obeha is Feyborn. So let's all have you all there. You can all decide what you want to do. You can approach this however you want. I will tell you, let me give you a little bit more of the lay of the land. We have this inn, the Quick and the Dirty, which is the sort of center of life here in the camp. We have all the various tents, and as denoted by the one that has a severed hand outside of it, they are maybe not the type of people who would invite you in for tea. We have crews going in and out from the river shallows. Now, the river shallows are nearby. That's another set, but you can certainly go over there. And then there's this forest that sort of is kind of all around, as is always the case in Trophy. There's always a forest, right? And so that's kind of the lay of things. You thought you were going to have this patch to yourself to just like search for a treasure, but it looks like you don't. And so, but you're still treasure hunters. And so you can still explore the area as you wish. You can still get hunt rolls, and you can kind of go wherever you want to go, and I will react. But you're all together. Role play.
As a sort of out of character thing, who was it among us that actually found out about this place?
Whose bad info was it?
I'll take it. Yeah. Soren just looking around, hands now clasped behind his back. Woe indeed. This is not what I was expecting.
The forest holds many surprises, but this is one of the more lively ones I've seen.
Unfortunately. Well, there is an inn. We can lay our heads down there, our multiple heads, and Soren will look over at the cage full of rats. If they'll let you in.
If they will not let me in, then woe to them, for I will stay with the king and the queen, and we shall rest outside.
Foolish of them for not letting you in. They could be charging a premium. What about you, Cassian? What have you on your mind?
If we're going to the inn, perhaps we can present ourselves as the more respectable or more worthy to take a spot here. I think Cassian thinking if need be, there might be ways to kind of press on that tension and just kind of escalate it a little bit, get one of those groups kicked out maybe. Spread some rumors. I don't know.
Yes, there's an idea there. Perhaps those rats might come in handy.
What do you suppose you're going to do with my kindred?
Well, as far as this place is concerned, this is a shining example of hospitality. It'd be a shame if those rooms were overcome by such vermin.
Irony? I'm still trying to figure it out.
Yes.
Sarcasm?
I'm going to just lean over to Soren. He's not going to put the rats in any jeopardy whatsoever. I think I can do something a little bit more unpleasant if we need a distraction.
Well, if it's more unpleasant, by all means.
While this is going on, a man approaches. He's heavyset, covered in tattoos, quite grimy. His teeth are the ones that are still in his mouth, have been sharpened to points. And he comes up to you and he says to you, specifically Ram, and says, "Those are fine looking rats you've got there, friend."
Indeed, they are some of the best lineage that Tyrolus can offer.
Rats are good eating. Good eating. I like them even when we're not in lean times. There's something about the way the bones crush between your teeth. How much you want for them rats?
I'm afraid that I cannot part with these rats, though if you have any gangrenous limbs or fingers, perhaps you could spare a few. The rats feel the same about you, you see.
He kind of looks at you sideways, like he doesn't quite know if you're making a genuine offer or if you're pulling his leg. But then he says, "What, so you think I'm not good enough for them rats? To eat them
No,
rats?
they would be very happy to consume you."
Now you're just playing a joke on me. And he says, "All right, fine. I'll give you twice what those rats are worth." And he holds up a pouch of silver, which is worth 1 gold in the mechanics.
Oh, coins to betray I cannot take them. I will have no part in this.
He pulls a knife and he says, my money's not good enough for you and you're rats. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Now be gone.
I think he just lunges. He is a endurance 7.
Okay.
Anybody can join the fight. But how are you vulnerable, Aram?
I'm vulnerable because I am not ready for a fight.
Go ahead and roll weak point on the die roller. Let's see what your weak point number is.
Okay. Weak roll 3.
3. Who else wants to help out Aram with this would-be rat connoisseur?
Cassian will jump in. He was almost wanting to lunge first at this guy, but it's already happening.
Indeed. How are you vulnerable? Just excitement?
No, I think those bruises I mentioned. I think,
okay.
yeah, just
Go ahead
beat
and
up
roll
from
weak. Yeah.
the fight.
3 is a
Also
bad
3.
number. Soren
Wait,
Obeha, you heading to the end? Dealing with
So you got to
this?
re-roll.
No, you can all have different weak points. You can all have the
We
same
can all
weak
have the
point.
same weak point. Oh,
Yeah,
I thought you had
you-
to re-roll.
The same
for
person
different.
can't have 2 dice that are the same.
Gotcha.
Soren Obeha, are you joining this fight or are you moving?
Soren is
on?
a spectator. He's very entertained right now.
Very good. That's what I gathered. I didn't think Soren. I already intuited Soren would not be the type to get involved in this. Obeha?
Beha is getting involved. I just didn't think like this guy would have like. I think he would have yelled some more before he went to start stabbing. Like I think he would have tried to draw a crowd to like.
This is not even the only fight happening right now in camp.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think I'm just distracted by like causing a distraction at the end.
Yeah.
What could I do? But yeah.
6.
Oh no.
All right. So you're looking for endurance of 7. That is the total. We're gonna have a 3 combat dice. Aram, since this is your dance initially, why don't you go ahead and roll combat 3? 6, 3, and 3. That's a great way to start. Those of you who have 3s are getting 2 ruin each unless you mark armor.
I'll mark armor.
He is defeated though, so that's good. Give us the first part of the fight, Ram.
So he pulls back with the knife and is going to lunge at me. And this is what happens with my armor. My clothes erupt in rats and they fly all over him.
I'm sure there's a small part of him that's like feels like he got the upper hand, even though he's probably about to die. Obeha, keep it going.
I think as the rats are just crawling all over him, biting him in turn, like I just take this moment to just stick out my leg and trip him, and like he grabs at me and pulls me down hard, and I just land a little bit awkwardly.
And Cassian, finish the guy off.
I think I was also in the scuffle. I was getting ready to try to like kick his knee or take him down or something, and as that happened, then I was off balance, so I do go down. And I think that's how I actually kill him with the scimitar is drawn. I was just trying to like slash at him, but like it kind of hits the neck. As he flails though, his blade cuts into my armor too, so I kind of land in an awkward pile as well.
Soren, in the middle of the scuffle, he loses his grip on his coin
The
pouch.
silver.
Yeah, silver, and it just rolls
yeah.
over by your feet.
I look down at it and put my boot on top of it, kind of kicking it to myself. And then as this is going on, I'll just lift it up and just kind of open it discreetly and start to count some of the silver. Then when it's done,
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I will. Oh yeah, I know when it's done. And I see that the 3 of them have bested this brute. I will tighten the pouch and just tuck it away.
Go ahead and add 1 gold to your gold counter. And Cassian, go ahead and roll gold 7 to see if you had anything else on him.
Wow, 2.
Surprisingly rich rat eater, rat connoisseur. Remember, he likes rats even when times aren't lean. So yeah, that's good. I think he's also got he has a pouch of gold dust. You can add that to your found equipment as gold dust, and it's worth 1 gold. And then he also has a pouch of semi-precious stones, which is just 1 gold in your gold tracker. The rest of you can divide that up however you want. Someone's getting shortchanged, but
yeah, I'll be shortchanged since I'm busy with my rats, and you guys can be like doing that.
I would like the gemstones rather than the gold dust.
Yeah, I'll take the gold dust.
You can mark them down as semi-precious stones and found equipment if you want, Chaotic, or you can just mark it as 1 gold. Cassian, it's gold dust worth 1 gold in found equipment. Well, good start. Altogether, I'm sure that was at least one person's burdens, right? In treasure. So Soren, where are you headed to after all this?
Well, now that we have lodging money, if we need it, I'll start to go head to the inn. And just take a look around the place in the lobby, see what the vibe is, see if there's someone manning the desk.
Take a hunt roll just to kind of generally scope the place out.
All right.
It's 1 die unless you have a relevant skill, or if you're somehow using equipment to do this.
No, just
okay. Go for it.
Straight up is fine. Did it roll?
I don't see anything yet.
There we go.
There you go. You got a 3.
Ooh.
You don't get a token, and you encounter something terrible.
Lovely.
The inn is thrown together from new hewn planks, and it provides some semblance of respite for the panhandlers, and it capitalizes on their mean circumstances. There are not actually places to sleep here. It's just a bar, basically. But the man who runs the place, who you can hear people variously referring to him as Tall Semmel. I'll type that for you. He's not tall, incidentally. He kind of says to you as you come in, he says, new to camp. Well, if you want a space to put up your tent, I'm the man to see.
Yes, well, I see that this is not lodging in the most traditional sense. But what are the requirements?
Oh, well, they're very simple, sir. First, you have to fill out a number of forms, and then those forms have to go to the council, where they have to get approved, and you got to have all the proper signatures and stamps, and then, look, coin. That's it.
Charming wit. How much?
And he tells you an appropriate amount that is not going to cut into your earnings.
Okay.
And he will like point out a plot for you, which just looks like free public land that doesn't belong to anyone, by the way.
And because it's kind of like open and like has these kind of plots, I assume that there are other treasure hunters here. Do they look like they might have something worth taking or investigating?
Well, so here's the thing. I was going to make his general attitude the terrible thing, but I'm also going to say that everyone who's there in these like kind of like sort of like, you know, plank tables, drinking no doubt watered down ale and eating no doubt waterlogged food, they are giving you kind of like hard, suspicious looks, right? They're sizing you up. Even if you think you're sizing them up, they're sizing you up as well. They look like a mean, unwealthy lot at a glance. Let's cut back over to the rest of the group, who's just finished divesting the late fellow who never got a name of his worldly goods. And no one seems to care too much about this body that's just bleeding out in the mud, by the way.
It's being consumed by rats.
Yeah,
Ooh.
like, what are the rest of you doing at this point?
Probably I'm taking whatever counts as a shirt on this guy. I'm like tossing it over to like Cassian, like you really need a better disguise. Just
Oh, Cassie needs a better disguise.
yes.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I think I will try to switch that out. Kind of tuck away my split armor. Just figure that out later. Cassian's also
Some old man will holler at you. They're sitting inside the entrance to their tent, just sitting on a little stool, one of those like low stools. It looks like he's almost sitting cross-legged on the ground. He says, "Ah, by the look of you, you've run away from your duties."
Cassian will kind of bluff and
What was
kind
it?
of look at
Stealing, murder, whoring.
You should have seen the man when I was done with him before I took his armor.
It's like, oh, so a bit of stealing, murder, and whoring all in one. Fantastic. Well, that's what they got me for too.
Say all of them are doing the same. They're just getting away with it, aren't they? It's only the ones caught.
Yeah, well, I'm sure things have changed a little bit since my day. He comes up to you and he makes a great show of getting up, like, creaking his bones and everything. And he comes up to you and he says, oh, what's his name? I haven't named this guy. My name is Alcott. I'll type that for you. Former King's Guard, until that stopped being my scene about 20 years ago. When I ran away, I thought to myself, Alcott, you're going to do something with your life. You're not going to bend to their rules. No more early morning watches for you. No more mustering before the cock has crowed. No. You're going to go to the Lavasti countryside. You're going to build yourself a beautiful manse, and you're going to have farms and wives and cows, and it's going to be fantastic. I had so many high hopes and dreams, just as I'm sure you do. And he looks over at his tent and says, ask me how that's going.
This cuts closer than Cassian would like to admit, and he just says, then, I'm sorry that's worked out poorly for you, friend. We're just passing through. We're here to make some.
Passing through. Yes, this is I can't imagine somewhere where you'd rather spend a holiday. My goodness. Like, of course you're going to come way out of your way to this shallow, mucky part of the river where there's literally nothing but dying and dead fish and piss, and pass on through. Your friend over there with the rats, a feasting. Does he just pass on through with you as well? Just a little light sightseeing tour through our ramshackle camp.
Not much to see so far. And he's sort of gonna bluff to anyone else in earshot or watching and say something to Aram about this is just a taste. Last time someone tried to fight us, just wait till the rest of your horde comes back. It didn't take this long last time, did it, to devour the last person who got in a fight with us?
The old man rolls his eyes and goes back over to his tent and says, thank you for the afternoon's entertainment. I really enjoyed your sword swing going wide and accidentally cutting that man's throat open. And then he sits down in his little stool. And Obeha, what are you up to right now?
I think I'm taking stock of like myself because I did fall. Some things are all cut open, and I think this time when I've come onto this incursion, I've actually brought some needle and thread, and I'm trying to like hunched over in the mud, trying to sew myself up. I don't need like a sort of roll for healing, I guess, but it's fine. Like
Yeah,
I don't.
any conditions you might have gotten
Yeah.
will be sorted out by you. You're stitching yourself up right now.
Mhm.
That's good. Soren, you're offered a mug of ale at a ruinous price. And assuming you accept, what do you do then?
I actually wanted to look at the table with like the most hunters and look to Tall Simul. How much for a round for everybody over at that table?
He says, you want to buy ale for everyone here?
Not everybody, but at least those over there. I feel like I'd like to be social right now, and seems to be
on the house. But I'll say that you paid for it. I'm really curious to see where this is going.
I am too. And Soren will quickly turn heel and head over to the table.
Yeah. Tall Samuel will be bringing the drinks over, and these men, there's about 4 of them. They look up at you with their beady, suspicious pig eyes, and they look at Tall Samuel bringing ale. They look at each other to confirm one of them did or did not order more ale. What do you say or do?
Sit down at the head of the table, looking at them. Hello, all. Fine day we're having here. Please enjoy the ale on my behalf. I'm wondering, curious, really. I'm new in town, as are my companions. And Soren looks back and doesn't see them and shrugs. What can you tell me about some of the hunts that have been happening here? What are some, I don't know, leads or info?
They just sort of sip and stare at you.
As I'm doing this, though, I wanted to know if, because I'm obviously trying to persuade them into talking, I wanted to make the ale seem more effective.
Interesting.
So I wanted to use ritual to make it more numbing, like they're more relaxed.
I'll just give it to you. You can just have done that. I don't need a roll. I'm curious what the ritual looks like, though. Like, how do you like doctor the drinks or whatever beforehand?
When he's passing out all the drinks, he gives Soren a drink as well. And Soren has these sewing needles that are kind of stuck all throughout his gambeson and his leather gloves. But while he's talking, there's a needle that's on the underside of his glove, and he manages to prick his palm and drain some of the blood into his own drink. And it kind of creates this echoing effect.
Nice. We'll come back to this scene in a moment. It'll work though. Aram, Cassian, Obeha, eventually you can all be done with whatever you're doing. Malingering, eating bodies, whatever it is. Aram, what's going on now?
Yeah, after like all of the rats jumped off of me and attacked the body, like I took the cage off and like put the 2 notable rats on it as well, and I'm trying to like gather them back up, but I like can't get them to clump on me right now. It's not working. They're distracted, and that's unfortunate, but they're still around, milling about. But like this is maybe the first time my companions have seen me without my garb on, and I'm like really, really, really small and wiry once the rats have leapt off. But I think I'm like trying to like call to them, like, come now. And I think that they're kind of scurrying in all directions. And I wonder if they might uncover something interesting as they're
I like that. Yeah.
digging around.
I'm reminded of like when you have like a fluffy cat that gets wet and you're suddenly aware of like how small it is. You're like, it's actually a very like small creature. Right? Yeah.
It's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But Aram is surprisingly wiry from always carrying extra weight on himself.
Yeah. You could take a hunt roll.
Okay.
Using the rats
Great.
as the justification for the second die.
Yeah. The vermin. Hunt. 2. We got a 6. Good.
Nice. Go ahead and take a token. And one of the rats comes back with a shiny silver piece in its teeth. Now, where it got it, who knows? But on its own, it's not worth anything mechanically, but it certainly might lead to something more lucrative.
Ooh. Found something, my little treasure, my little pets, my little companions. Come now, and they won't get on him. he scoops up the 2 big ones and puts them back in the cage.
Good. I like that they're free agents. They really want to do. Obeha, what are you up to?
Yeah, I think as like Aran trying to reclaim his rat cloak, like I think one of the rats is like lingering around, and I pick it up, and it's just like it's struggling because it's kind of just a wild rat, like it's not an actual pet. So it's just like making lots of noise, and I consider it, and I hand it over to Armand.
Best be careful with this one. He fancies himself a duke, though he has not earned that title yet. Rather uppity, aren't you?
I don't really know what to make of all this. Seems that everybody's fighting over pittance, really. Not worth much of anything here.
Yes, mankind is quite sad. They can't seem to just get along and help along. And he looks fondly over at the rats devouring the corpse. If only they could get along. You see how they don't scrabble at each other? They find that there is enough for all of them, even the ones that may not eat today. They'll eat tomorrow. And the rest that ate today, they will not. And then he looks over at the river, shakes his head. None of them will eat, and all of them keep fighting, and they get nothing from that river, even though I'm sure it has plenty to offer. And he takes that silver piece that the one rat brought him and kind of starts flicking it in things.
Cassian, what are you up to right now?
I think I will wander in to the inn to see what Soren's been up to.
Let's cut over to that. So Soren, I want you to do a hunt roll with 2 dice to start. So go ahead and do that.
Ooh, I get a token.
Nice. After an initial bout of cruelty, the die rollers being very kind now. That's how it is, though. It's very abusive in that way. Go ahead and take your token, and I'll let you describe. How can you tell that the magic is like affecting these men?
As they're sipping, these are very hard men, very rough around the edges and very cloistered, closed off. And when they see Soren initially, they're extremely hesitant to say anything to him other than scowl. But as they're continuing to sip on these complimentary drinks, Soren is quiet and sort of reclined with his fingers pressed together. And he's watching them start to loosen up, become much more liberated, much more lively. To the common eye, probably just looks like they're drunk, even though it takes a lot of this ale to get them to this level of inebriation. They're starting to kind of be more playful with each other now, and are now more curious about Soren.
they start to open up a little bit. One of them says, well, you should know that the river has lately started to give up things that are not just bits of gold and gold dust.
Oh,
Yes, yes, yes. One of the teams, they call themselves the Cockatrice team, if you can believe it. They, just earlier today, managed to pull out a couple of, what'd you call them there, Tall Samuel? Tall Samuel says, antiquities, antiquities. Yes, antiquities in the river. A vase and a beautiful lacquered box. Some say treasures from old Caldor itself. And then the other one's like, how could they be treasures from old Caldor? First of all, old Caldor is a myth. Second of all, it was supposed to be leagues under the ground. And like now they're arguing about where these treasures might have come from. But they will point out the tent that the Cockatrice team keeps their stuff and where they're at. And maybe they have pulled out some valuable antiquities today.
I'll be looking at them arguing and bickering again, and while they're doing that, I'll look over and see Kazian entering, and I'll just wave him over really quickly. Still looking at the others though.
And I'll say, oh, you found some hunters here worth doing business with. Everyone outside is just fighting or dying in the mud, really.
And then
Yes.
because they're so like intoxicated or whatever, one of them says, oh, we're terrible at this. We haven't pulled up anything yet.
Yes, well, they are terrible, but they do have some interesting information regarding that tent over there. Some antiquities were found. They call themselves Cockatrice tribe, something of that sort. Perhaps it's worth checking out, seeing what kind of antiquities they have. Maybe liberating them.
One of them is just like tugging on your new shirt, Cassian. Like has been tugging the whole time, like trying to get your attention. They could just talk, but they won't. They're like tugging on your shirt.
Sure. Like, yes. What do you want?
Do you want to know what our team name is?
I think he just gives him a blank stare, like, you're going to tell me anyway.
And then they look at each other. Like, no, we were sworn to secrecy. We swore we wouldn't say.
Well, it can't be worse than the cockatrices.
And they all just like look at each other and they smile as if sharing some kind of incredibly hilarious inside joke. And they're very thankful for their free ale because they suck. All right, now let's cut over to Obeha and Aram. Are you making your way to the inn as well, or are you going elsewhere?
I'm happy to like actually pan the river if you want, but pretty open to ideas.
I'm trying to get Aram to come to the inn because that's where half the group is, and like
Yeah,
we
can go there.
can split up, especially with like how rowdy this place is. Like someone else could try to stab us for your rats. Like
oh yeah, we can go to the inn. Is it like a proper building or is it like a tent?
It's like a big tent. It's really big. It's like a bake-off style tent, right? Really huge.
Nice. Yeah, I think like we're preceded by rats just like pushing themselves underneath the like cinched down sides of the tent before like the flap opens and we come in.
Tall Samuel he's got like a broom and he's like batting at the rats, like, get out, vermin. It's like, trying to keep them out.
The rats are polite enough. You don't need to chase them out.
They won't eat your food. They only eat humans.
Oh, you didn't need to say that, Arnold.
I think Tall Sam will just sort of like, he says, "Ah, positively flush with newcomers today. Please come in. Are you with this gentleman over here?" Pointing to Soren. Oh, do we freeze up? Oh, I think we froze.
Covers the side of his face a little bit when Obeha starts to wave excitedly.
I froze up just.
Soren.
Sorry, I froze up just briefly. Can we go back to him saying? What was the last thing I said? Oh, like, are you here with Soren? Yeah.
Obeha waved over as like Soren got pointed out, like just like get Soren's attention. Soren was ignoring aggressively, and then Armand said, "Oh, hey, Soren."
Yeah, like announcing to the room, like we're absolutely all part of the same group.
The whole gang's here.
Tall
Please.
Samuel says, "Well, I of course am going to have to. You already have a plot, but there's a surcharge for occupants in excess of 4, and I'm afraid you have about 40 or 50 more. Seems like."
Sir, by that logic, you'd have to charge all your guests exorbitant fees. I mean, have you seen the ticks and fleas on these people?
And Tall Samuel laughs, "Ha ha 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 ha! I'm just joking," and then invites you to go have a seat, and he'll bring some ale over.
Goodness, what excellent service. Free ale? I wouldn't have expected it here. And I take the rats off of my back and put them in the ale.
Oh.
I'll sip some of it too.
Soren looks thoroughly disgusted, but turns away to. He wants to turn towards one of the other of treasure hunters, maybe the one that's most flushed looking, and just ask, "Well, what did you come here looking for? Just treasure or anything else specific?"
He says, "Well, we heard that there's a manor house nearby, somewhere deep in the forest," and one of his companions is like, "Shut up, you're not supposed to be talking about that," right? And kind of is revealing that they came here for another purpose, not just to like pan the river, right?
Mhm.
But it seems like they're having no luck finding this abandoned manor house, which they were intending to plunder.
Soren will start to reach over a bit, or like lean over onto the table a bit, and part of his garment, he has these like sort of like these a little bit like claws, but they're made of like just kind of like this metallic material. But he does kind of put his finger underneath the chin of this man and looks at him. "Do tell more about this house."
Meanwhile, Cassian, that one guy's tugging on your shirt again. Just like, tug.
Yes, please tell me this name of your team. I'm curious now.
And says, "I just wanted to let you know that if you need somewhere to sleep tonight, we have space in our tent."
That's very kind of you. I assume one of us brought a tent, but I'll be sure to ask if we need some help.
The offer stands.
It seems that you made a friend, Cassian.
Yes, I suppose so. He looks awkward. But about that tent, that plot, we should probably go find a spot, get the lay of the land. I heard we don't want to be too close to the cockatrice team, which might not make sense to obey height.
The fellow who let slip about the manor, Soren says, well, I'm not supposed to talk about it, apparently. And so I can't tell you about how it's supposed to be the secret lair of a long dead wizard and that it is stuffed to the gills with abandoned magical artifacts. And the other ones are like, dude, the equivalent, the trophy equivalent of dude, right?
Your secret is safe with me, don't you worry. And when Soren says that, the little kind of hook on the end of the talon scrapes the underside of his chin and licks it. I really must be going, but enjoy the ale, all of you. I'll be seeing you all again, I'm sure. And Soren will get up and start to follow the others.
Indeed, indeed. Let's take a 5-minute break. I think by the time that you get down in the inn, it is getting to be sundown. And you'll notice that there is a market being set up. And somebody maybe walking by will point out to you, because they know you're new in camp, that there is a barter market that sets up kind of adjacent to the inn every night, because teams are coming in from the river and this is their first chance to get paid for whatever things they managed to bring back out of it. You have a few enterprising individuals setting up little stalls, and already there are criers standing on wooden crates, sorting out, sort of like hollering out to the men and women coming in from the river, we're giving good coins for gold dust today, kind of doing that. There's other people who are kind of like, listen, we've heard rumors about a point on the river that is particularly rich with leavings and offerings and treasures, and we are willing to part with this information for a very, very modest cut of your findings, and so on and so forth. There are things being bartered here. It's purely a barter market. There's no cash. And a lot of it's like junk, right? It's poor looking foodstuffs. It is baskets for panhandling that have holes in them, and almost certainly these are just people taking advantage of these sort of desperate people. But nevertheless, it's a thing to do in camp, and so a lot of the teams will kind of stop by and kind of look things over and are chatting. And in addition to the inn, it becomes sort of it's all part of the center of life in camp. I just need one of you to, if you're going to set up your own tent, I just need someone to choose a tent from their equipment, their extra equipment, and we'll do that. But
I definitely need some functional armor because I had to mark mine. So Cassian will definitely go to the market and hope there's something
something of value there.
Yeah,
we'll get to that in a moment. Soren, are you going to actually set up a tent, or?
Well, I did actually want to just do a brief discussion between all of us how we wanted to approach this, because now we have information about the Cockatrice tribe. They've got their own, they've got clearly information about what kind of antiquities they're finding. So it might clue us into what might be waiting for us. And now that we also know about this manor, that was this old wizard's home, that might be something worth investigating. But otherwise, probably not setting up a tent now because he doesn't have a tent, but would go to the market with Cassian.
I think Cassie's been waiting. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I have an idea for what I can trade with. Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Aram, what are you doing? And also, I am curious about this conversation. Like, what do you all want to, like, as a group? Do you want to try to steal from Team Cockatrice, or do you want to do something else?
Absolutely.
It feels short-sighted. It feels like this this alleged wizard manor is definitely what's going to pay our way home. Stealing from Cockatrice might get us halfway down the river, and then they'll murder us as the money runs out. But that's Aram's vote on the matter.
Aram also has interesting philosophical thoughts about working together with people and not just, cravenly stealing from them.
This is not craven theft. Listen, we came here believing that we would be the only ones here based on what I knew. We are clearly not. We were sold.
If you're going to take something from somebody, you might as well slit their throat and take it proper.
I mean, I could do that too, but I feel like that's less discreet.
Do you see discretion in this place?
Well, should I go running around slitting people's throats?
Only if you want to take their lives, their bodies for food, and everything they own. If you're going to just take something less, then, well, you're nothing better than a scavenger. Come along, rats. And I start walking with Cassian towards finding like some alternate armor.
Soren looks gravely offended by this, clasping his hand to his chest. Did you hear what he just said to me?
Oh, I think there might be a middle ground here. I think stealing is still a good plan, but maybe we look for information. We don't need to take all of their wares, but if we can at least maybe find something that shows us the way to this manor. If they've truly found something, then we should find a way to get ahead of them. Perhaps you could talk to them, you could distract someone, and I know a trick or two to slip around the back, in and out.
I'm sure you do.
Alcott, like, if he was there, he'd give you a big wink, like, mm-hmm.
Honestly, if we do steal from them, they will be on our trail eventually. It's more or less, do we want to deal with them now or later?
If we do it successfully, they won't be on our trail because they won't know it was us who did it.
But but if they see us at the manor, it will be a fight, regardless of whether or not they know we stole from them or not. Just being in proximity is a danger.
Cassian, there's a boy on a crate, and he says, Sir, I can tell you have that need. You have a look in your eye that says, I need something. And my father might be able to provide it for you. Nay, will be able to provide it for you. What is it, sir? What do you seek?
Aren't we all seeking?
What treasures lie at the bottom of your heart and heart's desire?
For now, the desire to.
We can help you. We can do it. Just speak aloud. What is it you want?
What armor do you have, child?
Armor, yes. And he says, one moment. And he goes behind his little stall. His dad just sort of like shrugs. Like, I think it's not even his dad's idea. I think his kid's just very dramatic and theatrical. And they confer for a moment. And they say, Sir, we have a number of not entirely bug-ridden bedrolls and pillows. And when combined with leather straps, which we also have, can make not just armor, but a sort of makeshift mobile bed. So really, you're getting like 2 things.
Really, and how am I supposed to move downriver carrying a bed around myself?
It's not a bed. It is very thick cloth rolled up and placed strategically on your body.
Well, it's good to know I have this option. I'm going to see what other wares are further in the market, and I will be sure to stop by if I'm in need of a padded armor made of a bed.
Before you even finish the sentence, the boy is looking at another person walking by. Sir, I can tell you have a desire, and so forth. So anyway, back to the plan.
Where did you said Haram walked off, David, right?
Yeah, I wandered off further into the throng.
Oh, let's just check in on you then. What are you doing?
I'm looking for a way of luring my armor back onto me. Perhaps it's something I can trade for. Perhaps it's something I can do.
So this was so what is your armor normally?
My armor normally is thick hide, which I think is actually the rats.
It's the rats. Oh, I see. So you need, oh, I see. That's so when it's marked. Oh, that's intriguing. I like it. If you're willing to barter something from your equipment, either your existing equipment or your open slots, somebody will have something that is an old rat catcher's trick. You can decide what that is, but yeah.
Okay, that sounds.
And if you do it, I'll let you unmark your armor.
Good. Yeah, that sounds good. I like that. I'll barter a pot of honey. That seems like a valuable thing in a place like this.
Yeah, I think the woman who she like takes the honey and she's like, and she kind of like opens the little pot, you know. She looks at you first and says, "Not wax sealed, but that's okay if the honey inside is good." And she opens it up and she's smelling it. She's like, "You really should put a wax seal on things like this. All sorts of things can creep in, the elements, bugs. But this honey seems perfectly," what's that word? Methyl. What's that? The honey word?
I'm not sure.
Like when something is honeyed, there's a word. There's like a scientific word for it. But she says that it's clearly that. And mellified. Anyway, all right. So what do you want for this? And so what is the thing?
I think that she has just like a bunch of like fripper's cloth and things like that. And I just want the whole lot. Like it's just a bunch of it. And I'm gonna just kind of lay it around in layers, and like put little strings out. And basically the rats are it's gonna kind of be parachuted along the ground for a while. And the rats will get in there and I'll be able to kind of scoop them up and then like wrap it around me. And eventually they'll like gnaw through it. But by then they'll be like placated and they'll just hang out.
Let's just hang out. Yeah, that's good. I like it. You can go ahead and unmark your armor. That was a good scene. Obehan Soren, what are you up to?
Well, since the others weren't so enthusiastic about stealing from the cockatrice, I'll say that Soren's probably following behind, just observing. I don't know if he actually. Let me check. Obey, if there's something you want to do, I'm just going to check and see what kind of equipment might be useful.
I know it seems that what's considered valuable is stuff that you can eat. And it's more dramatic if I don't say how I got it, but Jason, you know how I got it. But I hand Soren just a handful of tadpoles.
And these are what? And why are you giving them to me?
People can eat tadpoles.
What are they contained in? Are they like in a sack or something, or
like,
or they're just like
Just like a pile of. I'm fine with that. Yeah.
It's just a handful of tadpoles. Yeah.
You didn't think to bring some kind of casing, a jar, perhaps a bag?
I do.
You're very curious, Obeha. Very curious. Here, take these. I don't want to. Yes, well, you can, I'm sure, use these to barter. They eat rats here. I'm sure they. This is.
Oh no, I can get more of these.
I'm sure you're perfectly capable at tadpole catching the same way that Aram is perfectly capable at rat catching.
The kingdom is reformed. Come over with all the dang rats on me.
I'm not sure if casing is the word. I guess maybe? It's not a jar. It's not a case. Is both flexible and mobile. But yes, no, you can have those tadpoles. I can have more. Who knows? You might find a use for them. And I go wandering off.
Holding this handful of tadpoles.
What a nice little family you've got there.
It's one word for it, family. And he looks around on himself. You notice that he doesn't have any like satchels or pockets that are visible anyway. And instead he turns away from the others and starts to unbuckle the straps of his gabesson and lift up his tunic. And you see now that he has somehow created, sutured on this flesh pocket that he keeps things in. And just kind of looks at it once more and just tucks it away in there and makes sure they're tight and puts the gabesson back on. Well, what would be useful for us now? And when he says that, he looks over at one of the stalls, and I think there's probably like one of those mystery tubes.
Like a mystery scroll tube.
Yeah. And it's shiny and ornate in a way that nothing else is here. So he's immediately drawn to it, and he'll go over to whoever's vending that.
I think it's like one of those things where it's like, you know, like those TV shows where they buy up the contents of like abandoned storage facilities.
Yeah.
And like, you don't know what you're going to get. Right?
Storage Wars Caldor edition. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's that kind of thing where like, this person has a number of like, just like tubes and boxes and things. And you just like barter something good and you get something hopefully good. Right. Or you can just toss it out and keep the tube. Okay.
Really just the tube that he's after. No. He'll go over to the vendor and hello, good person. The tube there. I know it's used to hold documents sometimes, academic often. What were you asking for it? I've got
he kind of says, well, this particular document storage container has and it kind of lifts it up and he says, he kind of shakes it around. You can hear something rattling around in there. He says, I don't know what this is. It's a surprise.
Do you mind? I'm actually an academic myself. I could look it over.
He says, look, there's nothing in it. The like mystery box thing is just something for the hooples around here. Okay. Yeah. So if you've got a silver coin, is yours. It's just a rock.
Oh, well, that's less exciting. No. But I might take that bear trap over there.
Yeah. If he has, we'll say he has a bear trap. I'll sell you a bear trap.
And I'll give him a silver for it.
Yeah, sure. You can have a bear trap. And meanwhile, Cassian, in the crowd of people, you feel someone tugging at your shirt sleeve.
look down or to the side again.
Yeah, it's that guy again. And he says, I know where you can get some armor.
A little bit disturbing the way you managed to keep showing up like that. But I am in need of armor.
He's like, yes. And he like pulls open his cloak. And indeed, he is wearing a set of leather armor.
Nice.
He says, you just have to remove it from my body. And it's, well, it's yours.
I would kind of like to assess this if there's some, I don't know, it seems like there's some trickery here, or if there is some reason you can't remove it, if it's enchanted.
Make a hunt roll.
Seems sketchy. Let's see. I'm trying to think of skills here. Maybe either stealth or spontaneity if I think he's trying to pull something on me.
I'll take it. Yeah, you can take 2 dice.
Got a 5.
Take your token. You encounter something terrible. Yes, he's intending to get you alone and rob you. He's just putting on an act. How do you know that?
I think, well, he's positioning himself to the edge of the crowd all the time. He's always kind of approaching from the side. And I think the way he's holding it, maybe part of the armor is not fastened, but he's pretending he's having to hold. I'm not sure how that works. He's got like a hand free ready to grab something, but he's feigning that he's holding on to his armor or something like that.
Oh,
I would know.
Well, so what do you do?
I think I kind of position myself some, arm's length and say that looks like fine armor. Here, remove it yourself. I will get my payment for you, and just kind of stand out in the open, sort of like I know what you're doing.
He says, oh, I got to go back to my companions with my companions, and he says, but we can make this exchange later. And he goes back to join his companions with Team X.
The unnamed.
Indeed.
I think I will look for the rest of the group to warn them of this guy.
You can find them. Yeah. The evening is wearing on. You have not set up a tent yet.
No, but I have this beautiful bear trap.
You do indeed.
Wonderful craftsmanship.
It is not. Narrator, it wasn't.
I guess I will get a tent since everybody else keeps on saying maybe not.
I mean, if you just pull something out of your equipment,
yeah,
you can have a place to stay.
We have a tent.
And Soren will actually set up the bear trap outside of the tent if we need to.
Oh, you don't need to do that.
But I want to.
I can do something even better.
Better than maiming a would-be thief?
Oh, no, I can make it sure that even projectiles can't get through. So if something were to be thrown over the bear trap, then it won't hit.
It's less fun, but yeah, sure, go for it.
Why not both?
And I'm going to ward the tent.
You can do that. I don't need a roll. You can, if it comes in a play, we might roll, but you can be doing the ward. You can have the bear trap out. You can be setting up your tent. Rats are collected. Cassian still has no armor.
Yeah, I want to try and help help Cassian with that. Maybe like I'll stand outside the ward, stand outside the bear trap, like Cassian. Perhaps we can solve this riddle. And he's looking out at the market. This is the first living thing I've seen. The first the first proper colony of people in this place. Everything else has been individuals, but there's armor in there somewhere for you. We just have to puzzle it out.
I don't think there's an honest, not that I'm surprised, but I just need to find an honest salesman, and perhaps there is none here.
Perhaps not. But, well, here, join me. I want to sit down and do an aura to ascertain the creature of the market's truthfulness, to see if we can find a true place of this.
Oh, interesting. Well, I mean, what are you trying to find? I mean, what's the goal here? Like the ultimate goal?
The goal is to like ascertain like somebody who actually has armor that like we could
legitimately
properly barter with.
Yeah. I don't need a roll. You can just do it. Yeah. I think the boy and his dad were holding out on you. What do you see in their aura that makes you think that?
So I think the way that it works is the way that the aura ritual works is it's kind of like an augur with rats. And they like, if Cassian will sit down with me, like the rats will bring over another struggling rat. Say, to get the information, we must accept a willing offering from the colony. The colony offers this one. Will you do the honors?
What is it that I have to do?
And I'll like offer a knife.
Oh,
I'll slit it from one end to the other.
Sure. Takes the knife. Sorry. Try to do it quick.
Yeah. And we like augur, like Aram appears to be auguring it, and then all of a sudden he knows. There, over there. It's that same man and boy, the one you were talking with before. That's unusual. I thought that we had the truth out of them, but apparently not.
If nothing else, we can pad our tent and sleep comfortably from what they're selling.
No, I think they have actual proper armor,
Yeah.
Aram. Like you will sense that they're like hiding something.
Yeah, I think in the auger, like a bunch of rocks come out of the inside of the rat. It's like they have something real, something that could really protect you. Well, what could we have that would perhaps entice them to tell us the truth?
I have these, and Soren will have already reached into his flesh pocket and presented a handful of tadpoles to Cassian.
Wow, a princely offering, the whole family.
Take them, they're yours, and he'll just fling them over to them.
I hear there's a special drink you make with those in Navask.
I have not heard of it. Fascinating. Perhaps they're from Navask and they'll know this and they'll want them and trade you for them. Let's try it.
So,
Excellent.
I think that the armor situation is actually something that they will claim to have no knowledge of, and they clearly are not going to trade it. But you know they have it because there's a trunk. There's a trunk they clearly are, like when you mention it, they like look at, like the dad like looks at the trunk and then pretends like he wasn't looking at the trunk, right? There's something in that trunk, but they're not going to sell it or part with it. So it could be something you have to steal, because that stealing is the coin of the land at this camp. Meanwhile, Abeha and Soren, you have set up your defenses around your tent, and nighttime has settled into the camp. The barters market will begin to pack up at a certain point, and Alcott will have warned you, Cassian, that at night there are reavers who come through the camp and just as of late, they come to the camp and they just like murder and steal from the tents. So be careful. And so I think at this point, I'd like to go around the table and just find out what everyone is interested in doing tonight. You could just have a sleep. You can go steal things. You know, you have some leads. You have Team Cockatrice. You have Team X, who at least one member of is treacherous. You have a rat found a coin. That might lead to something. There's also the vendors, who many of whom are packing up their stuff at this point, and but they presumably live somewhere in the camp. So
I'd
Abeha,
like to.
sorry. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Soren.
Go on.
No, go ahead, Soren. It's fine.
No, Soren wants to follow up on this this cockatrice lead, and so I think that as the night is getting darker and as Aram and Kazian have gone off to go get that set of armor, Soren will break away and he'll scope out the camp first before entering or trying to enter, and seeing an opportunity, he will look around and pull out one of his needles and sort of place it into his ear and twist it a bit. And he's going to try and silence the area around the camp
Nice.
with a ritual.
We'll come back to that. Obeha, what are you going to be doing tonight?
I will either take a sleep or help Cassian steal some armor. Depends on what Cassian wants to do.
Well, Cassian, what are you going to do tonight?
Oh, after that ritual, I definitely want to find out what they're hiding. So, ready for it.
Yeah, Aram?
Ram insists that it's armor, but he'll have nothing to do with like robbing these people unless we're going to kill them first. So that's his weird ethics. So I think he might just be hanging out at the what's it called?
Quick and dirty? Yeah, the quick and dirty.
Yeah.
Do that.
Just chatting it up, carousing, what have you.
I want to check in with Soren in this ritual. So is your plan, Soren, to silence the area around the tent?
Yeah, so that I can sneak in quietly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. We'll say that the stakes are ultimately you sneaking into the tent.
Yeah.
And so that's good. Let's do a risk roll. Now, this is your chance, players, to start having a lot of effect on the story and what might happen in particular to Soren. So Chaotic, Gabriel, and David, first thing we have to decide, well, we don't have to decide, but we get to offer our thoughts on what we think could go wrong if Soren fails. Whoever wants to speak first, go for it.
If Soren fails in casting the ritual, he will only deafen himself. Everyone else can hear him.
So Soren can't hear anything, but everybody can hear Soren.
Yeah, that's kind of exactly what I was thinking. Like he'll think that it worked because he deafened himself, but everything is at normal volume. But yeah, that's all I can think of.
I was
oh,
go ahead. No, I like that.
Yeah, or maybe it'll backfire and like create an incredibly large amount of noise from where he is.
I was going to say, if you fail, this might be a devil's bargain too, but for now, I'm going to say if you fail, it turns out Team X and Team Cockatrice are the same, and that this is a trap. Any other thoughts, Gabriel?
No, I was going to also go with deafening yourself.
Yeah.
Or some weird
talk about
twist where
dice.
yeah.
Let's talk about dice. Yeah. Soren, you have deception, so I think that's probably sufficient for the first light die. And now devil's bargains. I'm going to say no
Do
matter
I add a dark die because I used the ritual, or
you will eventually. We're just doing light dice for now. So you got one light die for your skill. The second light dice for devil's bargain. And I'm going to make my offer first, which is no matter what, there is a crossbow trap trained on the entrance that you go in. Any other offers?
My devil's bargain is no matter what, there is an heir of Nagane watching. Not necessarily the heir apparent, but an heir of Nagane.
Oh, that's intriguing. That's especially intriguing, just sort of as a out of character thing, because the Naganese are all about snakes and cockatrices have snake features. So yeah, anyway. Any other devil's bargains?
No matter what, you didn't get all the tadpoles out of your flesh pocket, and they will start to burrow inside of you.
Obe, I forgot to mention they're burrowing tadpoles.
These things happen.
Gabriel, do you have an offer?
No matter what, the silence ritual makes your hearing hypersensitive. So you start to like hear, it's sort of the sensory overwhelm as you hear every little sound around you.
I think we'll actually take the air in of Nagana is actually there.
That's intriguing. That's very intriguing. Is it the, I mean, it's just so that we're very clear, it's not necessarily the heir apparent, but it's somebody you would recognize as an heir.
Yeah, maybe it's not necessarily an heir, but maybe it's like a representative or an attendant or like an ambassador.
Yeah, I'm super into that. Okay, cool. I can handle that. So you've got 2 light and 1 dark for the ritual. So go ahead and roll that. Let's see what you get.
Got a 5 in dark, and I got a 2 and a 4 in light.
So the 5 dark is what we care about. Your ruin goes up, but you succeed. The complication is you sneak in just fine, and the rest of Team Cockatrice is asleep or not there, except the complication is the heir of Nagane makes themselves known to you because they're holding a knife to your throat, and you'll have to deal with them. But you're in.
Just stopping by.
We'll come back to that. We'll come back to it. Obeha and Cassian, the plan is to steal the armor or whatever's in the chest.
I think so.
I think just pick up and take the chest in its entirety.
Sounds good. So what is this? What's the plan here? I mean, I think that they set up they just basically set up their little stand by their tent. So like you'd have to just go into the tent to get the chest.
I was thinking, so I have the ritual burrow. I think I just burrow right under and just try to like take the chest out through a little tunnel.
I think it's a good plan. I like it. And maybe with an assist from the Bayhalf, you need it. Yeah, that's good. We can set that as the stakes of you getting the chest or not. What could go wrong? Kadek, Jack, David, any thoughts?
I think he will burrow into the earth, but something will go wrong with the magic, and the earth around it will cave in and start to solidify around him, encasing him in it.
You'll end up in the wrong tent, and it will not be good.
It will create a lot of noise, and everybody will be aware of where we are.
I like all those. I don't have anything to add. Let's do dice. So, let's take a look at your stealth.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Yep.
Yeah, stealth looks good. Devil's bargains. My devil's bargain is this: no matter what, a rumor starts spreading through the camp of some kind, either like a tunneling creature or like a gang of tunneling thieves. But it becomes like a whole thing in camp. We'll say a creature, like a cryptid type creature.
My bargain is that you'll manage to get the chest, but the nature of the magic is that it calls upon creatures that can burrow, and so it starts to slightly transform you physically into something maybe kind of mole-like.
A
No
rat,
matter
a mole,
what-
and a frog walk into a bar.
Sure.
pretty much. No matter what, the boy will impress on you and follow you from here.
Yeah, I would like. Yeah, I think I would like to say it's literally the boy literally follows you in the tunnel. Is how I would shade that a little bit if you accept that one.
No matter what, this ritual will require Obeah's assistance in some way by using an item of theirs.
I like the these are good. I think I like the rumor of the tunneling cryptid. Because who knows, like we could use that to our advantage in the future.
Could be, yeah. I mean, this may not be a complication at all. It might be, yeah. 2 light, and you have to do a dark because of burrow. So go ahead and roll risk 2 dark or 2 light, 1 dark. Okay, 6 dark.
6 dark.
Ruin goes up, but you succeed. Start thinking about what the scene looks like, and in particular, how Obeah is helping you, because even though Obeah didn't need to put dice down, they're still there in the scene. I want to cut over to Aram. Aram, you are in the quick and dirty. It's a time of night when it's actually like not quite as busy. There's just one like group of people at a table, and they are pulled in very close together, like talking conspiratorially to each other. And tall Samuel sees you and smiles and says, "You, all of you, are welcome here this evening."
Oh, well, thank you. I thought I might put on a little bit of entertainment for the guests.
He's like,
Where are they?
he says, my only customers right now are not the types that need to be entertained, friend.
Oh, well, it's good for practice. Keeps the troop rehearsed.
He leans in close and he says, "I don't think you understand what I'm saying, friend. That group over there, they're Reavers."
Reavers. You mean they're here to rob you?
No, they're not here to rob me. I have an arrangement with them, which is just to say that they leave me alone and I leave them alone.
I see.
They've got their eyes on that old Kingsguard, Alcott.
Whatever would they want with him?
I don't know, but I have a feeling it's going to be his last night in camp.
Well, seeing as there's no one to entertain and no real entertainment to be had here, I suppose I'll just be moving on for the night.
Zach, yes, you're probably best. Have a good evening. Good luck tomorrow in the shallows.
Thank you, and have a good evening yourself, innkeep. Barkeep. Tent keep.
Tall
Whatever.
Samuel will do. So what do you do
Excuse.
after that?
I'm gonna go and like skulk in the shadows and wait for the Reavers, so I can, if they are gonna try and jump Cassian, I can maybe get the jump on them.
They're going after Alcott.
Oh, they're going to Alcott. Oh, I thought you meant Cassian.
No, no.
Oh, I see.
Although you might have misunderstood Tall Samuel, to be sure, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I care about Alcott, but yeah, I'll stalk them to make sure that they're not going to go after Cassian.
They'll eventually get up and they'll give a little nod of recognition to Tall Samuel and leave a coin on the table. And you can see now that they have weapons under their cloaks. And they head out the tent. And it's pretty late now at this point. Most people are in their tents, or you'll notice that when people see that these guys are on the move, they turn and look the other way, right? Let's come back over to the cockatrice tent. You have a knife to your throat, Soren. Here we have to speak a little bit about your drive, because Nagane that's a whole other continent. So yeah. How are you? How do you know these people? Do they know you? Like, what's the deal here?
I don't think they know me, but I know them. The cult that I was the cult that I was in certainly knew about them and knew about the power that their blood has. And which is why he wants the heart. But obviously getting to Nagana is expensive. Getting the kind of equipment you would need to assassinate an heir apparent and take their heart is probably also expensive. So I'd say that, yeah, their reputation is pretty known to him. He's never really met any of them. And I don't think this person would have met him at all. But the other thing, though, is that he's cast silence over this area. So I'm curious about how this communication is going to go down.
I am too. I don't, yeah. Well, so, I mean, I guess you can kind of define the parameters of the spell here. I mean, what do you think?
Okay. I'll say that when the blade is put to his throat and he sees that it's one of the Naganese, he'll take the needle out of his ear and it'll temporarily disable the spell. Listen, my quarrel isn't with you. I don't know what you're doing here, why you're slumming it up here. I just came to check on some things. If you'd like to talk, we can talk outside.
Do you know who I am?
Yes, you're one of the Naganese. Your people are known far and wide.
His knife gets a little closer to your neck and he says, how do you know that?
Your reputation precedes you. I mean, you're beautiful serpent folk.
Are you an assassin? Sent here from Umbret?
No, I've never even been to Umbret.
A likely story. So then what are you here for?
I heard tell that there was some treasures here that, antiquities really, that ought to be placed back where they belong. I mean, these raiders here, these treasure hunters, they have no use for these antiquities. They belong where they're supposed to be, with their owners. Okay.
He says yes. Team Cockatrice has managed to recover a few baubles from the water, but these fools don't understand what's really there. What is truly beneath the silt.
And you do?
I think I do.
Tell me.
And why should I do that?
I think we have common goals here.
He says, well, if you understand me and my people, then you know I have very efficient methods of earning your loyalty.
I do, but I also know that your people don't generally visit places like this, do they? So you being here is curious. Are you looking for a way to get back?
Not yet. I want to find something that I believe is here somewhere in this land. Evidence of certain Naganese bloodlines that would put me on the throne.
Interesting. Did they tell you that there is apparently a home full of antiquities belonging to an old dead wizard? Or well, I assume he's dead. Could be alive.
You are more than just an ordinary thief. You seem to know things that ordinary thieves would not know. Certainly things that these yokels, even more yokel-like than you normally find on this godforsaken continent. You know things that they don't know, and that makes me think you might be useful.
I think you're useful as well. You can use each other.
He pulls a very, very glistening black egg. He produces it, and he says, well, swallow the egg, and we are allies.
I'll take the egg very gently, look it over. What do you know about like the significance of this egg, or is it just?
I will tell you if you have a relevant skill.
I mean, the closest one would be like forensics, I guess. Or
I don't think so. You can ask, but
what is this? What does ingesting this do? Is this make me more pliable, more obedient?
well, if you betray me, it will hatch in your stomach and eat you from the inside.
And if I don't betray you,
then you will have gained the companionship and allegiance of a very highly placed Naganese noble, a potential heir to the throne.
bottoms up. And I'm tempted to use my deception to try and like act like I'm swallowing it when I'm actually not. Is that something I could possibly do?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think it'd be a risk roll.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the terms of it later. Let's go back over to Cassian and Obeha. Let's just have the scene, Cassian and Obeha, of you successfully stealing the trunk out from underneath the merchant and his son.
Obeha is staying outside of the tunnel that was dug and is casting another ritual to hide the hole using their illusion skill, just to make sure it's not obvious we're trying to dig through the ground and enter this tent.
I think to cast it, it's sort of like the casting lays on the ground, kind of corpse-like, Decay lets himself sink into the ground. And that's the danger of this ritual, is you kind of have to trust that the tunnel will connect. It's a bit passive in that way, so he just kind of drifts underground, right underneath the chest somehow, and manages to tug it down after him and drag it back.
Nice. You can open it up when you're back at your tent. Assuming you do, there was a very good reason why they did not want to sell this to you, because it is 2 sets of Kingsguard armor with fresh blood stains on them. They're worth 1 gold each set of armor. No, 2 gold each. They're worth 2 gold each if sold just on the open market. They also function as armor, of course.
Cassian goes to start stripping the insignia from one, but then looks at Obeha like, do you want one of these intact? For this?
Yes, I think they would be worth more if they kept their symbols, but you can strip one down for yourself because, well, we don't want to stand out.
Yeah, I think he'll do the same thing. Practice motion, I guess, whatever this looks like. There's like an extra piece of leather that's kind of bolted on there somehow, start prying it off.
Indeed.
Switch it out.
It does suggest that this man and his son either killed some Kingsguard fairly recently or has access to people who did such things. And I think we're going to end on a bit of a cliffhanger with Soren considering the egg offer. Maybe even on camera, it looks like Soren swallows it. We'll determine later if Soren actually did or not. And the Reavers marching towards Alcott's tent with Aram behind in the shadows, and Cassian Obeha learning that there's more to this camp than meets the eye. Let's go ahead and go to Stars and Wishes. Stars and Wishes is our debrief. Stars are things you enjoyed about the session, bits of something from the characters, something I did, something one of your fellow players did, something about the incursion, just anything really. And wishes are things that you hope to see next time. Whoever wants to go first, take it away.
I thought that everybody did a good job of making their character feel alive and like a character that's existed for a long time. I don't know if you have like played characters like the character you're playing before. Obviously, Chaotic has, but I think like Soren and Cassian were new characters, but I felt like they had been around for a long time and I understood them, and they're like getting a decent grasp on their motivations and attitudes already. I thought that was really fun. I always like how Jason characterizes like kind of hangers on NPCs, the little tugging fella this time that won't tell you the inside joke after he suggests telling you the inside joke. That was pretty delightful. And I love the panning the last river setup. It's very bleak. It's very desperate. Feels like proper trophy gold setting. So really digging this.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Stars. I enjoyed everyone's characterizations a lot. I thought everybody did a really good job like telling us who these characters are. I thought all the like interesting rat details and ideology was very fun. I enjoyed Soren's sort of like arch, like kind of sort of like arch above it all, like kind of behavior. I thought that was really good. I really enjoyed the interaction between Alcott and Cassian. I just thought that was a great moment. It just felt so like, to me, it kind of like felt like, yep, this is trophy gold. Like, this is what you have to look forward to, like it's all just going to go to shit. Right. I kind of liked that. And of course the tadpole thing was very fun because as a sort of like audience member, I kind of know what's going on there. And I think it's very amusing and I hope it kind of comes out in play. But I thought everyone did a good job like reacting to that and like making that an interesting part of the story. So my big stars are just for the characterizations, and I like this incursion a lot too. This incursion has it's kind of like all vibe in the beginning, right? Like, but it's a good one, and it's and it has this just like kind of like sessions and adventures that are kind of like a lot of just like town and talking and stuff are not always like so fun, or they can not be fun in other games. But I thought this was really enjoyable. I thought the Devil's Bargains and all that kind of came out helped that a lot, and just everyone's kind of leaning into the atmosphere of the place and kind of being one with the place. So yeah, it was a good time.
Stars for everybody. Specifically, like Jason said, the characterizations were really fun. David, I've seen you in other things, so I'm always looking forward to the kind of like the wit and the intricacies that you bring, the subtleties, and so like the strange like regalness that you're applying to these rats, and your reverence for them is really fun to watch. Kazian, I'm really curious, and this is also kind of a star and a wish, because he's got this this air of mystery about him to a degree, and I really want to know more about him. But I think what you've introduced so far is very nice contrast to what everyone else is doing. And Obeha, same sort of thing, very much different from what we are doing, and or what some of us are doing rather. And the wish would be just to know more about specifically why you're carrying around tadpoles, but also what the, I guess, ramifications are of having someone who's been through this kind of treasure hunt before, and how that might help or hurt us. And then Jason, it's been looking forward to this for a couple weeks now, and yeah, it was a great experience, a great first time experience doing Trophy Gold. I think it was nice to have moments of levity in this. It definitely sets it apart from something like Trophy Dark, where it's just bleak and desperate and doomy. And it also makes it feel more alive. And you're also really good at like circling back to things, and like, you know, it's that quickness that keeps things moving. And I really appreciate that. And then yeah, my general wish is just seeing more of these characters, because I think they're cool and I want to know more about them.
I also a star for just the sort of already not quite parallels, but like contradictions between characterization between players, like between Armand's just view of the very noble rats, whereas Cassian should have a noble role, but it's just very dishonorable. Whereas Soren is sort of leaning back from like the nitty gritty, like personal politics of the group, whereas Obeha is sort of leaning into it and like is trying to like gauge everybody's opinions about it. Also, just the star for like having like the quick and dirty Team Cockatrice, and then finally Team X, whose name we still just don't know. Like, I want to know it, and like it's going to be a pun or something like ridiculous.
Well, there's a possibility with that one devil's bargain that the joke was they are Team Cockatrice, and they were going to think that was very, very funny, right?
It starts to the atmosphere of this whole camp. I really appreciate the way it was built, and we really just got to spend time exploring it. It stars everyone for their little details. Really appreciated how Obeha like produced this handful of tadpoles and was like, oh no, there's plenty more. I can just bring you more of those, no problem. Like Soren's little the little claw or whatever on the fingertip was a great detail, and Aram letting the rats swim in his ale casually and sip it was great. So those little things brought out so much from every character, and I like the sense of how they're all, you know, we're still getting to know them, but they're all clearly capable of things. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out when they get in danger even more in new situations.
My wish, I'm very intrigued by this introduction of the Naganese noble. I really like that. And I want to know where that's going. And I feel like it's going to have a big effect on the ongoing story. And so I'm pretty excited about that. I am very curious to see what's going to happen with the Reavers, because I'm essentially like posing a sort of like moral dilemma on Aram, and I think it'll be curious. I'll be curious to see how Aram reacts. Aram might think they're not going to get involved yet if it's just Alcott, but I'm very good at bringing the trouble to your doorstep, so I think it'll be fine. And so I'll be curious to see how you react to that. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm also looking forward to playing up this like tunneling cryptid thing too. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. I think I'm gonna actually like create a creature from the tables to be the tunneling cryptid, and I think it would be cool if the tunneling cryptid, if there actually is such a thing, that would be kind of fun. So we'll see. But yeah, anyway, any other stars or wishes?
Uh, just a star for just how like everyone has an animal motif. I mean, like Armand rats, Abeja frog, Cassian mole, and now Soren has snakes. Just
So it's saying a mole, a rat, a frog, and a snake walk into a bar.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, that's also part of my other wish, is to understand more of how these people came together, because it, like, everyone's characterizations felt very lived in, felt very like it wasn't a bunch of newbies running around like, oh, how do we know each other? It was very like, oh, we've been doing this for a little bit. So I'm curious to see how the dynamic continues to play out and see if we get more like backstory about that.
Yeah, I think my wish is only to figure out more about the like wizard manor thread. That sounds particularly interesting to Aram, and I think actually speaks to something about how I'm imagining his drive goes. So
wish I want to see everybody's reactions to when Obeha takes off their mask, because that's going to be a fun time.
Fabulous. Any other stars or wishes? Okay, then that will conclude our session. Everyone, wave goodbye to people watching the video. Goodbye.